A Common Idiot presents Monster Mania. I don't think we can talk about horror movies or Halloween in general without having to mention some amazing monster movies. We have everything from the classics like Creature from the Black Lagoon, Dracula, Frankenstein, and then we have some more modern day stuff. But this list right here are going to be my top 5 monster movies of all time. Coming in at number 5 is 1986 remake of The Fly, directed and co-written by David Cronenberg. This movie has pretty much everything you would want in a monster movie, and there are different types of monster movies. There are some where the monsters are just kind of killing at will and you don't really care for the monsters. But this movie really, at least to me, makes you sympathize for the monster at the end. And if you've never seen this, I highly recommend it. But what really makes this movie stand out is obviously the graphics and practical effects that they were able to accomplish with the mutation and the slow turning of Seth Brundle into the Fly. Some of those graphics are just killer and still stand true to this day. But Jeff Goldblum's performance in this and how you really feel bad for the character and what he's turned into, I think really makes this an amazing film, and the rewatchability on this is just outstanding. So this is definitely one of my favorite monster films. I highly recommend you check it out. Maybe I'll do a deep dive of this movie in the future. Coming in at number 4 is An American Werewolf in London. Now, I did a little quick review of this earlier in the month so far, so I definitely recommend you checking that out. But I love werewolf movies. Something about them have always just drawn me to them, and this is, I think, by far the best werewolf movie of all time. The practical effects, the wolf howl, everything about this film is amazing in so many levels. And again, the writing, the character building, how you really care about the characters, and you feel bad for the monster, right? Because he means well, but obviously, unfortunate circumstances has put him where he's at, and bad things are happening. So definitely recommend this if you've never seen it, or if you have, definitely go revisit this because I believe this is one of the best werewolf movies ever made, and it definitely lands in my top 5, coming in at the 4th spot. Coming in at the 3rd spot is none other than Alien. This is an amazing sci-fi monster film. Alien is iconic, and so many people love this movie, and for so many good reasons. The practical effects, the way they filmed it, the scene with the first chest burst. Oh, there's just so much that you could touch on this. And again, you have a crew stuck in space that are trapped with this monster, this killing machine that is just destroying them at will, and it really puts the fear in you of what's going to happen next. A couple of those scenes are so iconic when the captain goes into the tunnels and you could see that tracker and you can hear the noise. There's so many awesome parts about it. This is another one where the rewatchability of this just is so high, and it just continues to be a classic as the time goes on. So definitely recommend it, but it does come in at my number 3rd spot. Coming in at number 2 is John Carpenter's The Thing. Now, I've already done, again, another quick review on this earlier in the month, and this might be controversial that this movie is above Alien, but I think by far that this is the best sci-fi monster movie of all time. John Carpenter's movie is just so amazing in so many levels. Again, the score, the writing, the directing, the practical effects, everything about this movie just screams awesomeness. Kurt Russell is amazing in this. Like I said, I can watch this movie over and over and over again. You can do hours of reviews in just this movie alone. Same with Alien, right? And it's just personal preference because it was very hard for me to decide between the two. But for me, The Thing edges over the Alien just enough to make it and land in the 2nd spot. Now, before I get to my top spot and top movie on my list, I do have an honorable mention that didn't quite make it, but at least it's up there in my opinion for a multitude of reasons, and that is the 1988 remake of The Blob. Not the strongest film in the world, but definitely a horror movie, and especially if you were a kid and you saw this movie terrified me, and mainly because of the practical effects that were used. To this day, the one scene of the high schooler who was in the hospital, and the girl comes in and sees him just, and you could see it on my thumbnail there, him just screaming out in agony, has been ingrained and burned into my head. I mean, maybe seeing this as an adult, it wouldn't be as effective, but as a child, this movie terrified me. The famous phone booth scene where the girl's stuck in there and the blob has encased her, and you see all the dead bodies, and I mean, the practical effects in this really made it stand out and really just made you grossed out and scared. The fact that if this thing got a hold of you, you're going to have a horrible, horrible death. So not the strongest film, not the best written, but it's up there for me, at least that's how it affected my childhood and how it put the fear of the Blob in me when I was a kid. So now let's move on to spot number 1. The top spot for my list of monster movies has to go to Jaws. Jaws is by far the best monster movie ever made. The way it was filmed, the score, the acting, the final scenes. I mean, this movie pretty much has it all and is an absolute masterpiece of a film from start to finish. There's nothing that I hate about this film. There's nothing that takes me out of this film. I mean, just the slow buildup of the shark, that's just an absolute killing machine. I mean, the fact that it puts so much fear of people going into the ocean afterwards, this movie has such a massive effect. And even to this day, I think if you give let a child watch this with all the practical effects, really make this movie put the fear of the water into you and the fear of sharks. I mean, again, I can't think of any other movies that would top this as a monster movie. But if you disagree with my list, please let me know down below, because like I said, there are so many iconic scenes from the Jaws. Like I said, the slow build-up, the slow reveal of how massive this shark is, right? How big of a killing machine this is. And then that final scene when it gets up onto the orca and it takes Quinn. It's still, to this day, it is still just an amazing film. The rewatchability is there. I've seen this movie hundreds of times, and I will continue to watch it over and over because it is such an amazing movie. But let me know below in the comments what your top 5 is monster movies. Like I said, I'm sure this is pretty controversial list, and there's definitely no right or wrong. It's just your opinion. So I always love to hear what your movies are or what your suggestions of your top 5 would be. So let me know down below in the comments. I always love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for watching as always, and until next time, take care.